Stop letting your feelings bankrupt your future. Stop apologizing for your ambition. This is the truth you must face. Your emotional reactions are the single greatest threat to your power, your peace, and your progress. For too long you've been a passenger, hijacked by fear, anger, and insecurity. This ends now. Over the next 2 hours, you will not learn to suppress your emotions, you will learn to master them. You will learn the art of emotional detachment, the ultimate non-negotiable skill for high-level control. This is the blueprint for a mind that is calm in chaos, decisive under pressure, and permanently free from the noise of the moment. If you are ready to move from reacting to ruling, then pay attention. Your power begins now. Chapter 1. The Emotional Bankruptcy. Why your feelings are not facts. This is where the transformation begins. This is the bedrock of the art of emotional detachment. Let's start with a brutal, unavoidable truth. Your emotions are making you poor. Not just financially, but poor in power, poor in peace, and poor in progress. For too long you have treated your feelings like facts. You feel insecure, so you are a fraud. You feel angry, so your rage is justified. You feel overwhelmed, so the world is too much. This is the language of a passenger, not a pilot. This is the mindset of a person who has surrendered the steering wheel of their own life to a volatile, unreliable passenger. This ends now. The core argument of this entire audiobook is this: emotions are data points, not directives. They are information. They are indicators. They are a dashboard light telling you something is happening. They are not a command to abandon your mission. Repeat the mantra. Feelings are passengers, you are the pilot. You are the pilot. You are the one who charts the course. You are the one who makes the executive decision. The feeling of turbulence is just a passenger yelling. You don't crash the plane just because a passenger is scared. You steady the controls and follow the flight plan. That's the key. The immediate cost of surrender, we need to look at the scoreboard. We need to see the immediate catastrophic results of leading with emotion rather than logic. Think about the last time you quit. The gym plan, the side project, the job. Did you quit because the logical, rational data told you it was unsustainable? No, you quit because you felt discouraged. You felt exhausted. You felt impatient. You allowed a feeling to override a commitment. That's the immediate cost. It's not about lack of effort. It's about lack of control. Consider the professional world, the impulsive email, the one you typed in a fit of righteous anger at 11 p.m. You hit send. That single emotional transaction created immediate, long-lasting collateral damage. It destroyed trust. It poisoned a relationship. It burned a bridge you now regret. The feeling lasted 20 minutes. The consequence is permanent. You have a choice. You can be the person who sends the email, or you can be the person who drafts the email, steps away, and deletes it the next morning. The emotion was the same. The outcome was everything. That's the power of detachment. The person who runs their life on an emotional script is perpetually paying an overdraft fee on their time and reputation. It's not about being right in your anger. It's about being effective in your life. You don't need their permission to be angry, but you do need permission from your future self to destroy your progress. And your future self is saying stop, building the rational bridge. So how do we establish control? We introduce the rational bridge. Your current process is this. Stimulus leads to reaction. Something happens, you instantly feel, and you instantly act. This is the behavior of an animal, not an architect of his own life. We are going to insert a non-negotiable step. The process must become stimulus leads to pause leads to response. The pause is the rational bridge. It is the first point of control. It is the moment where the passenger yells and the pilot turns around and says, "Thank you for the data, but I'm flying this plane." This is not a philosophical exercise. This is a physical 2-second pause. When your partner says the triggering sentence, when the boss sends the critical email, when the failure hits your desk, your body is going to tense up. Your adrenaline is going to spike. Your mind is going to race to justify its next move. Stop. You have a choice. You must commit to a 2-second moment of nothing. A moment where you do not speak, do not move, and do not type. You breathe. You simply breathe in and out. This small intentional act is a massive psychological intervention. It floods your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and decision-making, with the moment it needs to override the emotional reflex. The goal is to move from reaction to observation. Your feeling of frustration is just a data point, indicating a conflict between what you want and what you have. Your feeling of nervousness is a data point indicating the importance of the situation. That's the key. You observe the data, you process the information, and then and only then do you formulate a disciplined, rational, intentional response. Your feelings are not your facts. They are just the atmosphere. You are the structure. The strongest structures withstand any storm. They don't fall apart just because the pressure shifts. You are the pilot. You must fly the mission, not the mood. You've learned that the emotional path leads to bankruptcy. Now it's time to build the ultimate safety device against that danger. In the next chapter, we install the emergency brake. We talk about the simple, immediate physical tactic you can use to stop the emotional hijack dead in its tracks. You have identified the problem. Now let's install the solution. Chapter 2. The 3-second rule, creating the immediate emotional gap. You know the enemy. It is the instantaneous, automatic emotional reaction. That quick surge of anger, that sudden paralysis of fear. That is the moment your power is stolen. We must install an emergency brake. We need a tactical defense against your own impulsive biology. This chapter is about the 3-second rule. This is the physical, mental, and immediate technique you will use to stop the emotional hijack dead in its tracks. The biological hijack first. Understand what you are fighting. You are not fighting logic. You are fighting evolution. When a stimulus hits you, a disrespectful tone, a critical comment, a sudden setback, your body initiates the amygdala hijack. The amygdala, the primitive part of your brain, bypasses all rational thought and triggers the fight-or-flight response. Your heart rate accelerates. Your hands clench. Your vision narrows. You become a creature of pure impulse. You don't think. You react. The problem is that in the modern world, this reaction is not helpful. It doesn't help you with your finances. It doesn't help you lead your team. It only serves to burn the bridges you need to cross. Here is the crucial data point. You have a 3-second window before this reaction is locked in. You must use this window to physically intervene. This is your chance to assert the pilot's authority over the yelling passenger. The physical tactic. Observe. You have a choice. The 3-second rule is simple, non-negotiable, and must be implemented immediately. When you feel the surge, the heat rising in your chest, the tightening in your jaw, you must do 3 things in sequence. This is the rational bridge we discussed. Step 1, the full stop. Freeze your body for a single second. Stop typing, stop moving, stop speaking. This breaks the physical momentum of the reaction. Step 2, the deep breath. Take a slow, intentional inhale through your nose, counting to 2. Then a slow, intentional exhale, counting to 2. This is not about relaxing. This is about sending a direct signal to your central nervous system that the emergency is over. You are safe. You are in control. Step 3, the mental command. As you exhale, mentally repeat this single word, observe. This is your core tactical defense. The word observe is a command to your logical mind. It forces you to mentally step back and look at the situation and your feeling as an outsider. You are demanding data, not permission to panic. That's the key. The observer versus the actor. You must understand the 2 personas fighting for control, the actor and the observer. The actor is driven by the immediate feeling. The actor screams, argues, quits, or spirals. The actor is perpetually bankrupt. The actor believes the feeling is a fact that must be obeyed. The observer is you, the detached pilot. The observer says, I see that anger. I see that anxiety. It is in me, but it is not me. The observer simply watches the emotion without identifying with it. This is not about suppressing the feeling. You don't need to suppress it. That's futile. This is about creating distance from the feeling. The goal is to watch the anger, the fear, or the frustration as if it were a cloud passing in the sky. It is there, but you are not defined by it. It cannot move you. You have a choice. You can be the subject of the emotion, I am angry, or the student of the emotion, I am observing anger. The student is always in control. The feeling of panic is just the passenger yelling. The pilot simply notes the yelling. The pilot does not change altitude, does not change speed, and does not change the destination. They remain disciplined. You don't need their permission to feel, but you don't need to surrender your power to the feeling either. This is the non-negotiable mental training. Every time you feel the surge, you practice the 3-second rule. You pause. You breathe. You observe. Repetition is not a choice. It is the discipline. This simple act builds the rational bridge brick by brick. You are conditioning your mind to default to logic, not lightning. You have now established the physical means of escape from emotional hijack. You've installed the emergency brake. Now we must talk about the invisible chains that constantly drag you back to emotional chaos, the addiction to external approval. You mastered the pause. Now let's talk about the silent killer of self-mastery. Chapter 3. The silent cost of seeking validation. You've successfully built the rational bridge, that necessary pause that separates stimulus from reaction. You've installed the 3-second rule. That is your defense against immediate, internal emotional chaos. Now we must identify the greatest external threat to your detachment, the silent cost of seeking validation. The core argument of this chapter is simple. Basing your self-worth on external approval makes your emotions entirely reliant on other people. And because you cannot control other people, you have deliberately made your emotional state uncontrollable. This is emotional slavery. You don't need their permission. You have a choice. The external anchor trap. What is validation? It's the craving for the applause, the need for the like, the fear of the criticism. It's allowing someone else to hold the anchor to your ship. If they praise you, you float. If they criticize you, you sink. That's the emotional cycle of dependency. This is the antithesis of detachment. Detachment is self-sovereignty. Validation seeking is self-surrender. Think about your last ambitious move. Did you hesitate to start until you got buy-in from your friends? Did you spend more time crafting the social media post about the work than actually doing the work? Did you feel a disproportionate emotional sting from one negative comment, even after receiving 20 positive ones? This is the cost. Every minute you spend wondering what they think is a minute stolen from building what you need to think. The repetitive mantra you must burn into your mind is this: you cannot control the audience, therefore you cannot anchor your ship to them. The opinions of others are merely noise, static on the line of your own mission. That's the key. The immunity shield. Filtering criticism, seeking validation is not just about craving praise. It's about being terrified of criticism. We must build your immunity shield, a detached process for handling any negative feedback. When criticism hits, the actor in you immediately rushes to defend, argue, or spiral into shame. The observer does something entirely different. The observer employs a simple 2-step filter. Is it data? Immediately ask, is there one single actionable piece of information in this feedback that could make my work better? If the answer is yes, you extract the data, thank the person internally or externally without emotion, and apply the correction. Is it noise? If the criticism is based purely on opinion, jealousy, or a personal attack, you categorize it as noise. You have a choice. You don't engage. You don't argue. You don't spend 5 minutes of your precious life thinking about it. You delete it. You are a scientist running an experiment. Criticism is just a report on the failed attempt. You don't weep over the report. You adjust the variables. The key is to filter for data, discard the emotion. It's not about being sensitive, it's about being efficient. You cannot afford to carry the emotional baggage of every person who has an opinion about your path. They are passengers. They are not the pilot. The internal scorecard. How do you replace the anchor of external approval? You must build your internal scorecard. The external scorecard judges you based on applause, status, and praise. It is volatile and unpredictable. The internal scorecard judges you based on 3 things you can always control: effort, consistency, and integrity. Your new self-talk must be ruthless and self-focused. Did I follow the plan I set for myself today? Did I put in the effort required, even when I didn't feel like it? Did I act with integrity, regardless of who was watching? If the answer to those 3 questions is yes, your score is perfect. You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise. The quiet knowledge that you adhered to your own standard is the most stable and powerful emotional state you can cultivate. That's the key. The validation you seek is a cheap, temporary fix. The validation you earn from yourself through quiet discipline and adherence to your own scorecard is permanent. It is the fuel of sustainable success. It is the definition of emotional detachment. You've learned to sever the chain to external dependency. You've learned to stop asking for permission. Now we must make your execution of the plan as silent and powerful as your new state of mind. Chapter 4. Stop proving and start doing. The discipline of silence. You have secured your interior life. You've mastered the pause. You've severed the emotional dependence on external validation. You are detached from the applause and the criticism. Now we move to the final frontier of detachment, execution. This chapter introduces the discipline of silence. It is the principle that dictates that your output, your work, your results, your actions, is the only valid form of communication. Everything else is a performance driven by an emotional need for approval. The loudness trap. Why do people announce their plans? Why do they boast about their impending moves? Why do they feel the need to argue their competence before they've proven it? Because they are slaves to the loudness trap. They seek the temporary emotional hit of public commitment. They want the immediate feeling of being important, of being seen as a person who does things, but that energy is finite. The moment you talk about the work, you steal energy from the work itself. Power whispers. Weakness screams. The person driven by emotion needs an audience. The person driven by discipline needs a quiet room. You have a choice. You can satisfy the emotional urge to announce your intention, or you can satisfy the rational commitment to execute it. You cannot do both with maximum efficiency. That's the key. Stop proving and start doing. Your mission is not a movie trailer. It is a full-length feature film that you screen only when it is complete. The work is its own reward. The disciplined person finds their satisfaction in the process itself, not the anticipated applause. This is crucial. This is the ultimate emotional insurance against disappointment. If your motivation is based on the emotional reward of recognition, you will quit the moment that recognition is delayed, minimal, or absent. You are outsourcing your willpower. The detached mindset states, the work is the reward. The satisfaction is not the finish line. It is the commitment to the daily mileage. The gratification is not the praise. It is the quiet internal knowledge that you adhered to your own standard for the hour you set aside. This shifts your energy source from an unpredictable external supply, people, praise, to an entirely controlled internal mechanism, effort, discipline. You don't need their permission to feel good about your effort. You simply do the work, and the feeling of self-respect is the inevitable byproduct. It's not about being secretive. It's about being secure. Secure in your commitment, secure in your process. The execution mindset, silence as strategy. Silence is not passive. It is an aggressive, strategic weapon. When you execute in silence, you gain 3 undeniable advantages. Elimination of resistance. When you announce a big goal, You subconsciously prepare for the emotional weight of accountability and potential failure. When you work in silence, you are free to experiment, fail small, and correct without the psychological pressure of a spectator. You don't have to defend your process. You simply refine it. Focus on detail. The energy you would have spent crafting an announcement, responding to questions, or navigating opinions is redirected entirely into the details of the task. That single-minded focus is what separates the successful from the merely ambitious. The work itself becomes your only communication. Maximum impact. When your results finally emerge, when you have built the product, hit the target, or achieved the transformation, the impact is amplified precisely because no one saw it coming. The final product speaks for itself, rendering all previous doubt or emotional posturing irrelevant. Your emotions want you to talk about the work, to feel better now. Your rational detachment demands you reserve your energy to complete the work so you can win later. You have a choice. The key takeaway is this: your output speaks. Your emotions should remain silent. Your output is the ultimate fact. Everything else is a feeling. Commit to the discipline of silence. Stop spending emotional energy proving your value, and start reserving every ounce of it for creating actual, undeniable value. You have mastered the pause. You've mastered the silence. Now let's talk about the mind's ability to accept a setback without breaking. Chapter 5, The Filter of Indifference, Mastering the Art of So What. You have the tools for control. You have the pause to manage your internal world. You have the discipline of silence to manage your external presentation. Now we must refine the most powerful defensive weapon in the detached arsenal, the filter of indifference. This chapter is about conserving your energy. It is about recognizing that not every event in your day, not every problem, setback, or annoying person demands a strong emotional response. Most deserve only one reaction, stated internally and ruthlessly. So what? The power of neutrality. Your mind is a high-performance engine. It has a limited reservoir of emotional fuel for high-level decision-making. If you burn that fuel arguing with reality, raging over traffic, or stewing about a slightly rude interaction, you will be running on empty when a real crisis hits. This is the strategic flaw of the emotionally reactive person. They treat a traffic jam and a financial crisis with the same level of emotional intensity. That's emotional bankruptcy in action. The filter of indifference is the discipline of assigning the correct minimal emotional value to minor setbacks. You are not cultivating apathy. You are cultivating strategic neutrality. You are conserving your power for things that actually matter to your mission. That's the key. You have a choice. You can allow a small irritation to derail your entire hour, or you can simply note it, file it as irrelevant data, and move on. Defeating petty tyrants. We are constantly surrounded by petty tyrants, the minor annoyances that hijack our focus and consume our energy. These are the email that takes too long to load, the person who cuts you off in line, the colleague who sends a passive-aggressive memo. The emotionally reactive person sees these as personal attacks that must be immediately corrected or absorbed into their emotional narrative. The detached person sees these events as energy sinks that must be avoided. To defeat these petty tyrants, you must learn to apply indifference. Indifference is not caring less about your life. It's caring more about your long-term goals than your short-term feelings. When the irritation flares, your 3-second rule kicks in. Pause, breathe, then state the truth internally. So what? This does not affect my mission. This is not easy. Your ego will scream for justice. Your emotions will demand satisfaction. Your discipline must tell them to stand down. You are prioritizing your mental peace over the fleeting, empty satisfaction of being right or justified. The strategic non-reaction. The highest form of power is choosing not to react. An opponent, whether it's a person, a circumstance, or a minor technical glitch, who cannot provoke you, cannot control you. Your reaction is the only thing they seek to steal. By withholding it, you defeat them instantly. Think of it as a chess game. The emotional person is constantly reacting to the immediate move, sacrificing their long-term strategy. The detached person is indifferent to the small moves, keeping their eyes locked on the end game. Your non-reaction is your greatest tactical advantage. It is a sign of immense inner stability. You don't need their permission to ignore them. The key is to view your emotional energy as a finite asset. Would you spend $1,000 on a piece of gum? No. Then why spend 5 minutes of intense stress or resentment on a minor inconvenience that will be forgotten by the end of the day? Apply the indifference. Conserve the capital. Direct your passion only toward your chosen pursuits. The pursuit of skill, the pursuit of progress, the pursuit of excellence. Everything else is a distraction. That's the key. You have mastered the filter of indifference, securing your mental energy from trivial theft. Now we must ensure your entire life is structurally prepared to handle true disaster without emotional collapse. Chapter 5. The Filter of Indifference, Mastering the Art of So What. You have the tools for control. You have the pause to manage your internal world. You have the discipline of silence to manage your external presentation. Now we must refine the most powerful defensive weapon in the detached arsenal, the filter of indifference. This chapter is about conserving your energy. It is about recognizing that not every event in your day, not every problem, setback, or annoying person demands a strong emotional response. Most deserve only one reaction, stated internally and ruthlessly. So what? The power of neutrality. Your mind is a high-performance engine. It has a limited reservoir of emotional fuel for high-level decision-making. If you burn that fuel arguing with reality, raging over traffic, or stewing about a slightly rude interaction, you will be running on empty when a real crisis hits. This is the strategic flaw of the emotionally reactive person. They treat a traffic jam and a financial crisis with the same level of emotional intensity. That's emotional bankruptcy in action. The filter of indifference is the discipline of assigning the correct minimal emotional value to minor setbacks. You are not cultivating apathy. You are cultivating strategic neutrality. You are conserving your power for things that actually matter to your mission. That's the key. You have a choice. You can allow a small irritation to derail your entire hour, or you can simply note it, file it as irrelevant data, and move on. Defeating petty tyrants. We are constantly surrounded by petty tyrants, the minor annoyances that hijack our focus and consume our energy. These are the email that takes too long to load, the person who cuts you off in line, the colleague who sends a passive-aggressive memo. The emotionally reactive person sees these as personal attacks that must be immediately corrected or absorbed into their emotional narrative. The detached person sees these events as energy sinks that must be avoided. To defeat these petty tyrants, you must learn to apply indifference. Indifference is not caring less about your life. It's caring more about your long-term goals than your short-term feelings. When the irritation flares, your 3-second rule kicks in. Pause, breathe, then state the truth internally. So what? This does not affect my mission. This is not easy. Your ego will scream for justice. Your emotions will demand satisfaction. Your discipline must tell them to stand down. You are prioritizing your mental peace over the fleeting, empty satisfaction of being right or justified. The strategic non-reaction. The highest form of power is choosing not to react. An opponent, whether it's a person, a circumstance, or a minor technical glitch, who cannot provoke you, cannot control you. Your reaction is the only thing they seek to steal. By withholding it, you defeat them instantly. Think of it as a chess game. The emotional person is constantly reacting to the immediate move, sacrificing their long-term strategy. The detached person is indifferent to the small moves, keeping their eyes locked on the end game. Your non-reaction is your greatest tactical advantage. It is a sign of immense inner stability. You don't need their permission to ignore them. The key is to view your emotional energy as a finite asset. Would you spend $1,000 on a piece of gum? No. Then why spend 5 minutes of intense stress or resentment on a minor inconvenience that will be forgotten by the end of the day? Apply the indifference. Conserve the capital. Direct your passion only toward your chosen pursuits. The pursuit of skill, the pursuit of progress, the pursuit of excellence. Everything else is a distraction. That's the key. You have mastered the filter of indifference, securing your mental energy from trivial theft. Now we must ensure your entire life is structurally prepared to handle true disaster without emotional collapse. Chapter 7. The Truth About Failure. It's data, not a verdict. You have prepared your mind for the inevitability of setbacks. You've created the future-proofing protocol, but preparation isn't enough. You must fundamentally change the emotional definition of failure itself. For the emotionally reactive person, failure is a verdict. It is a judgment on their identity. I failed, therefore I am a failure. This verdict triggers the emotions of shame, despair, and self-pity, leading to the ultimate catastrophe, quitting. For the detached person, failure is data. It is neutral, non-personal information delivered by the universe about a flawed process. This chapter is about decoupling the self from the result. Decoupling self from result. The most critical act of emotional detachment you can perform in the face of a setback is this. Failure is a process event, not a personal identity statement. When the project collapses, when the deal falls through, or when the habit breaks, your emotional brain will scream, "You are incompetent." Your rational, detached mind must immediately interject, "You did not fail. The attempt failed." This is not wordplay. This is a life-saving distinction. When you fail, the failure belongs to the system, the strategy, or the execution, all things that are changeable. The attempt failed because variables were incorrect. You are not a variable. You are the scientist running the experiment. That's the key. You have a choice. You can wallow in the emotion of shame, which offers zero solutions, or you can detach and analyze the data, which offers the pathway forward. The detached person chooses the solution every single time. You don't need their permission to be upset, but you need your own permission to stop moving forward. The analytical mindset. The disciplined response to failure contains zero emotion. It requires the cold, clear eye of an engineer performing a root cause analysis. When failure hits, you must employ the detached, 3-step post-failure analysis. No room for self-pity. This is the rational bridge applied to disaster. What was the goal? State the target in simple, measurable terms, e.g., launch the product by Q3. What were the incorrect variables? Identify the input flaws, e.g., we underestimated the coding complexity by 40%. We tried to multitask. This requires brutal honesty, not emotional justification. What will be changed for the next attempt? Formulate the precise action plan to correct the variables, e.g., allocate 2 extra weeks for testing. Delegate this single task. This process transforms the emotional event of failure into the rational action of correction. You are not asking, "Why me?" You are asking, "What now?" The entire exercise is one of depersonalization. You treat the failed project like a broken machine. You don't cry over a broken machine. You analyze the broken part, replace it, and restart the system. That's the key. The relentless iteration. The person who achieves success is not the one who avoids failure. They are the one who remains emotionally detached enough to keep running the experiment. Failure is merely the cost of tuition in the school of competence. Every failure is a tuition payment that buys you a new piece of data. The person who quits is the one who paid the tuition but refused to attend the class. The detached mind views life as a series of experiments. If the result is not what you wanted, you run the experiment again, correcting the variables. This relentless iteration is not driven by passion or motivation, which are feelings. It is driven by discipline, which is a commitment to the process. You are the ultimate rational agent. Your objective is not to feel good about your attempts. Your objective is to get the desired result. And the fastest way to the result is through rapid, emotionally indifferent correction of error. You have disarmed the bomb of failure by reducing it to its true nature, data. You are no longer vulnerable to the emotional verdict, but this requires constant energy, and you must protect that energy from the corrosive force of resentment and past hurts. You mastered the analysis of failure. Now we must cut the invisible threads that drain your current energy. Chapter 8. The Energy Audit, Cutting Emotional Debt. You have secured your future by treating failure as data. Now we must confront the biggest thief of your present energy. Emotional debt. Emotional debt is the interest you pay on past events. It is the resentment you harbor for a past wrong, the shame you carry from a mistake made years ago, or the lingering anger from a betrayal that is now irrelevant. These feelings are the opposite of detachment. They are chains that link your current performance to your emotional history. This chapter is about conducting a rigorous energy audit and severing those unnecessary emotional ties. You have a choice: pay the debt forever, or declare emotional bankruptcy and move on. The consumption of resentment is the most expensive emotional debt. When you hold on to a grudge, anger, or past hurt, you are the only one paying the interest. The person who wronged you is likely living their life, unaware or indifferent to your internal suffering. Your emotional energy is consumed daily by an event that is already over. Think of resentment as drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It is a purely self-destructive emotional loop. The feeling of being justified in your anger is a cheap emotional high that leads to long-term performance stagnation. That's the key. The detached mind cannot afford this expense. Your energy must be directed toward the future you are building, not the past you are justifying. It's not about being nice. It's about being efficient. You don't need their permission to be angry, but you need your own permission to stop wasting your power. The choice to forgive. Self-preservation. You are not being asked to forget the past or endorse the action. You are being asked to engage in the ultimate act of self-preservation, forgiveness. But we are defining forgiveness through the lens of detachment. Forgiveness is not an emotional act of kindness to others. It is a detached, rational act of self-release. It is the cancellation of an internal debt you are still paying. The rational dialogue is this: holding this anger serves no productive purpose. It does not punish the perpetrator. It only punishes me by draining my focus. Therefore, for the sake of my future mission, I am rationally choosing to cut the cord. This is a mental transaction. You are taking the past event, observing the emotion it generates, acknowledging it, and then filing it away as closed business. The ultimate expression of detachment is the ability to say, that happened. It is now irrelevant to my current objectives. That's the key. The clean slate mindset. Your goal is to adopt a clean slate mindset every single day. This requires you to audit all emotional ties that serve no productive purpose and sever them immediately to reclaim that energy for your mission. This means cutting the shame. Your past mistakes were data points, not destiny. They bought you tuition. Don't carry the receipt. Cutting the blame. Stop searching for who is at fault for your current circumstances. Blame is an emotional distraction. Focus entirely on where you go from here, cutting the attachment to old identities. If you identify as the victim of a past event, you are actively preserving the emotional wounds. Detach from that narrative. You are the protagonist of the next chapter. You have a choice. You can live burdened by the weight of your past emotions, or you can walk forward with the lightness of rational self-interest. The detached person understands that their energy is their most valuable asset. They protect it ruthlessly from any expense that doesn't yield progress. You have cleared your emotional debt and reclaimed your mental energy. Now it is time to summarize the entire journey and fully understand the reward of this difficult discipline. Chapter 9. The final command. The life lived by intention, you have completed the full process. You have cleared the emotional debt and audited your energy. You understand that detachment is the prerequisite for power. This final chapter synthesizes the entire journey. It is the definition of the reward. The ultimate goal of the art of emotional detachment is not apathy or coldness. It is the ultimate form of intentional living, a life where every single action is a choice, not a reaction. The return to control. Detachment is intentionality. Emotional detachment is not the absence of feeling, it is the conscious redirection of action. The person who is ruled by their emotions is living a life of perpetual reaction. They are blown by the winds of circumstance, their path determined by the last mood swing or external stimulus. They are living by accident. The person who practices detachment is living by intention. They feel the anger, but choose the calm response. They feel the fear, but choose the bold action. They feel the inertia, but choose the necessary discipline. You have a choice. Your ultimate freedom is the space you create between the stimulus and your response. We built the rational bridge for this exact reason. You must understand that this is the final, non-negotiable definition of self-mastery. Your actions are always aligned with your highest goals, not your temporary mood. That's the key, the permanent state, daily vigilance. This mindset is not a temporary tactic. It is a permanent operating system upgrade. It demands daily vigilance against the creeping return of impulsive feeling. The emotional default is comfortable. Your brain will constantly try to lure you back to the familiar path of justification, blame, and reaction. You must fight this inertia every single morning. The disciplined life requires constant re-upping your commitment to the observer role. When you wake up, you must mentally reaffirm, "Today I am the pilot. Today I will observe, analyze, and choose my response. I will not react." It's not about achieving perfection. It's about maintaining consistency. Even one impulsive email, one moment of rage, or one episode of self-pity is a breach of the protocol. It's an expensive mistake that proves you dropped the guard. You don't need their permission to be human, but you need your own permission to stay committed to your highest potential. The unbeatable advantage. Why does this matter? What is the final reward for this difficult discipline path? Emotional detachment is the ultimate sustainable competitive advantage. When everyone around you is paralyzed by fear, you are calmly executing Plan B. When your competition is driven to distraction by a social media feud, you are quietly maximizing your output. When your partner is consumed by insecurity, you are the rock of stability. Your decisions are no longer polluted by the bias of fear, the arrogance of temporary success, or the confusion of doubt. They are based on data, logic, and long-term vision. This clarity creates an insurmountable gap between you and the emotionally volatile majority. The life lived by intention is the life where your goals are not only achievable, but inevitable. Because the biggest barrier to your success, your own volatile nature, has been permanently neutralized. You are no longer a passenger. You are the sole commander of your future. Go and apply this command. You have listened. You have mastered the discipline of detachment. Now you must act. Chapter 10. No excuses. The complete mindset shift to take 100% responsibility. You stand at the final gate of self-mastery. You've achieved the life lived by intention. You are detached from external noise, internal chaos, and past emotional debt. But the detached mind requires one final, brutal commitment to maintain its power. The complete mindset shift to take 100% responsibility. This is the chapter that kills your comfort zone. This is the truth that separates the pilot from the permanent passenger, the myth of circumstance. The emotionally reactive person's favorite refuge is excuses. Excuses are emotional justifications for not meeting a commitment. They are the mind's attempt to preserve self-esteem by outsourcing. Blame. I failed because the economy was bad. I didn't start because I didn't have enough time. I reacted badly because that person provoked me. Every excuse is a transfer of power. It says, I am not in control. Something external determines my result. The no excuses mindset is the ultimate expression of emotional detachment. It states that while you cannot control every circumstance, you always control your response to it. Therefore, your outcome is 100% your responsibility. You have a choice. You can cling to the emotional comfort of blame, or you can claim the brutal, difficult power of total ownership. The detached person chooses ownership every single time. That's the key. The power of I choose. When you take 100% responsibility, you eliminate the emotional narrative of victimhood is the weakest emotional state. It is an appeal for sympathy that generates zero solutions. Your entire language must shift. Replace the language of reaction with the language of choice. Instead of, I couldn't work out because I was too tired. I chose to prioritize rest over my workout commitment. Instead of, I argued with my colleague because they were disrespectful. I chose to engage in an emotional dispute rather than exercise the filter of indifference. Instead of, the market made me lose money. Think like this. My risk tolerance and planning allowed the market conditions to create that outcome. This is not about self-punishment. This is about establishing a direct, unbroken line between your choices and your results. When you own the choice, you own the power to choose differently next time. That's the key. You don't need their permission to be tired, but you must own the result of your choices. The final, unavoidable task, your final task, now that your mind is detached and rational, is to consistently operate from this place of 100% ownership. This means eliminate the try. The word try is an emotional exit ramp. It implies permission to fail without accountability. You don't try to be detached. You are detached. You don't try to complete the task. You do the task. Focus only on input. Your responsibility is confined entirely to your input, your effort, your consistency, and your adherence to your system. Your emotional health is guaranteed not by the outcome, but by your adherence to your input standard. Execute without justification. The moment you feel the need to justify a poor result, stop. The need to justify is the emotion talking. The discipline is to simply analyze the data, Chapter 7, and immediately adjust the system. This is the ultimate, non-negotiable step. Emotional detachment is not a passive state. It is an active, assertive commitment to self-governance. You are the law and the judge of your life. The cycle of blame and procrastination is officially broken. Your performance is now determined only by the clarity of your intention and the consistency of your action. You have built the unshakable mind. You have listened. You have understood. Now you must act. The noise has been identified. The strategies have been delivered. You now know that your greatest weakness is the belief that you must be ruled by what you feel. That lie is dead. The next time the pressure hits, the criticism lands, the doubt creeps in, the anger flares, I want you to hear one word, pause, that breath. That second of detachment is the moment your power is either lost or claimed. You have practiced the separation. You have identified the observer within you. You are no longer the victim of your own volatile chemistry. Your path to freedom begins with the brutal, beautiful discipline of letting go. Your mission is simple, decisive, and non-negotiable. Return to your life and execute your plan without emotional interference. The work is not over. The work has just begun. Go and apply the detachment. Go and claim your control.